I swear to God, he snapped my neck so far back I could see my ass. It was mad. You know what? I thought he quit, but I understood it. Because I think quitting is more brave than staying in there and to the end. He was doing the sparring, the bag work. He was doing maths equations while he was hitting the bag one day. He knocked me out on the last day of sparring, but even with that, I didn't think he'd be big enough. For me, as a 33-year-old man, the thought of a 20-year-old knocking me out does not sit too well with me, really. If you're going to offer me a hell of a lot of money to box anybody. I box the Talma, Usyk, one after the other for the right amount of money.
Yeah.
That's not an issue to me. Talk of world titles for him already is absolutely ridiculous. He's miles off, really. Probably the best-looking man in boxing, so I'm going to show him. I'm going to show him what kind of man I am, what kind of man his dad is. And I'm not going to quit.
I'm very strong in my views across all sports that biological males should not be competing with biological females.
But it was very unclear whether he was a biological.
I don't think it was. Welcome to episode 123 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. Joining us today is the current British fans' boxing favourite and heavyweight contender, Dave Allen. Nice to see you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Let's start with the big fight that's coming up on July 19th. We'll talk about other fights during the course of this show, but let's start with Daniel Dubois, predominantly because you were down with Don Charles at their training camp, the Barn.
Yep.
What kind of mindset are you seeing exhibited from Daniel in the preparation for this fight?
Well, I'm down there frequently, actually, and what kind of mindset? Daniel Dubois has grown, not just as a fighter, but mentally as well. And I think that's the difference, Simon, when you look at, you know, his career performances in recent times and you see the improvements there, that's not just the physicalities that have improved, but the mental state of mind as well. And he truly believes in himself. You know, he knows where he went wrong against Oleksandr Usyk last time. He knows where the fight was won and lost, and they're going to correct that. They've got a great game plan going into this one. The strategy's perfect. If they can execute that, we're in for a serious fight for sure. But he's mentally in a really, really strong place.
You can also hear from Daniel that he's growing in confidence. He's getting older, getting wiser, and getting more comfortable in front of the media and getting more expressive. So to that point, let's hear from Daniel himself what he's got to say about the upcoming rematch.
When you saw him go over on the floor, he didn't seem to be he wasn't holding down below, he was holding his stomach more, but you saw his legs trembling.
Yeah.
How do you capitalise on that again if that situation happens again?
Listen, I know what I've got to do differently, and if that happened again, if he gets back up, I'll be ready for him. Whether it's fighting him, making it a brawl, whatever we have to do, we'll be ready for it. Never, just lessons learned in that moment.
One of the things he said there was, if Usyk were to get knocked down and get up again, this time he'd be ready. I mean, why wasn't he, in your mind, ready for that in the first fight?
I think as a heavyweight, he boxed Usyk, I think he was 25 the first time. I can only speak from my experience. At 25, I was a kid. I think heavyweights at 25, Mike Tyson aside, they're all kids. Look at Lennox Lewis at 25, then look at him again at 35. He was twice the size physically. And mentally, it's massive as well. I think as all men, we mature in our late 20s maybe, late 20s.
Because it was a big question, wasn't it? We all watched it. I mean, we watched it when he drops Usyk and all the debate about low blow or whatever else. But there was an opportunity, wasn't there? From when, I know Usyk got a lot of time to compose himself, and the argument was, well, what did the referee do? He gave him far too much time. He was either going to give him the right amount of time, which he didn't, or get him up when he should have got him up. And he did neither. He allowed him to have somewhere in the middle. But there was always this thought process that, OK, Daniel, fly out from the corner and go and deal with him now you've got him on the run. I mean, again, I asked the question, I've asked it of Dave, he's given an explanation as to what the maturity of a fighter does.
Yeah.
Do you think that circle's been properly squared now in Daniel's mind, that looks back on that and thinks, if I know now what I knew then, I'll do it, what I'm going to do next?
Absolutely. He said that himself, that they've been over that. He knows where he went wrong there. He sort of derailed in the corner himself. He lost all the motivation in that corner. I think that he was there. He had Oleksandr Usyk right where he needed him. Forget the 4 or 5 minutes that Usyk stayed on the floor. He should have jumped on there and capitalised on that. And he should have stayed on him, and he didn't do that. And I think that...
Is that a belief, Spence? Is that like that? I mean, I remember the moment years and years ago, this is before Dave's time.
I think he just lost focus, Simon.
Well, let me frame the question. I remember years and years ago, and I went to the fight in 1989 when Frank Bruno hit Tyson. And he hits Tyson, gets him on the go, and everyone... I remember Harry Carpenter famously going, Frank, get in there. And it was almost as if Frank had hit him, realised he'd hurt him, and suddenly stopped and didn't have the natural inclination to go, wow, I've got him on the go, couldn't quite believe the situation. Do you think any of that played a part with Daniel, which is, I've heard him, he's in trouble here, or is it just something different? I'm pulling out a string that's not really relevant.
No, I think that definitely there is some truth in that. I think that was definitely part of the reason. I think that Daniel went into that Oleksandr Usyk fight not believing in himself the way he believes in himself now. And when he was in there, he actually thought, hold a minute, I'm having my little moments in here. But like that was all happening whilst the fight was going on. And that was like, so now he knows it and he's had time to process it, digest it. He now knows how to deliver. You
sparred him, didn't you? When was that? I
sparred Usyk October 2020.
Daniel.
I sparred Daniel. July 2016. I was sparring for the Dylan White fight. I did 4 rounds with Joe Joyce, 4 rounds with Fraser Clark, and Rob McCracken said, we've got a young 18-year-old kid here, can you do the last 2 to make up 10? So I thought, sound, get him in. Daniel Dubois gets in the ring. Straight away I look at him and I think, bloody hell, that's not your average 18-year-old.
Yeah.
He hit me with a jab. I swear to God, he snapped my neck so far back I could see my ass. It was mad. He hit me that hard, honestly. My head, and I looked at him. I got through the next 2 rounds. I had to get through him. He was 18 years of age. I had to get through him. I've never been hit that hard by a jab before or after.
Right.
He was just an absolute physical
specimen.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. He was scary. But I do think now. I think this has caught up now as well.
Right.
So I think he's going to be a dangerous man against Usyk this time.
Well, you mentioned Joe Joyce. I mean, last week Daniel was talking about the impact of the Joe Joyce defeat upon him. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
I've said there, 27 years of age, you go back to, like, let's say, Joe Joyce, when a lot of people were asking the question, did he swallow it, didn't he swallow it? You had a broken eye socket, and you effectively saved your own career by ending it the way you did then. But you've gone from strength to strength really since then. You've formed as a fighter and character as well.
From that fight,
did you learn a lot from that?
From that, yeah. Joe helped us a lot, didn't he? Without him, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Yeah.
So I like Joe. All of those experiences, they just help make me the man I am today. So, yeah, good. Enough respect.
I mean, mindset's a big thing, and we'll perhaps talk to you about yours later on in the show. But what do you think's changed in Daniel Dubois since he's become a world champion?
I think it's just age and time, really, more than anything else. I think he's just developed, as we all do, with time. Things take time. The Joe Joyce fight, people forget, I think it was 20... He'd be 23 at the time.
Yeah,
when I was 23, I was a kid. I was a baby.
I think he might have been even younger than that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he got a lot of unnecessary stick at the time. He was 23 years of age. Joe Joyce at the time was one of the most dangerous heavyweights on the planet. So, like you said...
Did you think, when you saw the fight, 'cause I went to the fights, and a lot of noise came out, and people like David Hay had accused him of quitting. Yeah. When you saw that, was that your first reaction? You know what?
I thought he quit, but I understood it.
Right.
I understood why he quit. And for quitting for me is all about hitting your level. We've all got levels. We've all got different levels of toughness and how long we'll stay in there when things get hard. But when you got a broken, eye socket, orbital bone, whatever it may have been, and you're getting a stiff jab by Joe Joyce round after round, there's only so much you're going to take. And like I say, he saved his own career really if he'd carried on. And for what? I thought sometimes I think quitting is more brave than staying in there and to the end.
Taking the right decisions, yeah. I mean, moving to the other side of the equation, which is Usyk, you've been in a training camp with him. We've got some footage of you sparring with him. How good is Usyk?
You know what, I think going back to what Spencer was saying earlier, like Dubois landed the punch here. This is great, great watch. So, like you said, like Daniel hit him with that shot and he never capitalised on it.
Yeah.
I sparred him for maybe 40 rounds in 2 weeks. I didn't hit him with one shot. Dubois might have, if that was a legal shot, I don't think it was. But good luck at him again. Hitting Usyk with 2 clean shots in 12 rounds is an unbelievable task. People don't understand how hard it is. I sparred him for 40 rounds in 2 weeks. I never hit him with anything clean.
You said you sparred with Daniel Dubois and you felt his power as an 18-year-old kid. He's obviously matured since then as well. He's got that power, isn't he? Like that one-punch power to take anyone out. So he only has to hit him the once. That's the point, isn't it, with Usyk?
I think he does, but as hard as he hits, that's how hard Usyk is to hit clean. Usyk is just... him and Tyson Fury, I would say, were the 2 best by far. There's a big gap between them 2 and number 3. But if Dubois hits anyone, he'll knock him out for sure, yeah.
Lots made of Usyk's training camp, and I remember speaking to certain members of Anthony Joshua's training camp, and they marvelled at what they saw after the fights. They're coming out of having lost the fight, and they're watching Usyk running like a fiend in the gym the next morning, and the disciplines and the way he lives his life. And it's always reported that he lives his life absolutely for the sport. You've been in the training camp. What's that environment like?
You know, it was during COVID, so we went to Kiev. We was locked away for like 2 weeks. I think it was the Ukraine Olympic training base. I lost 18 pounds actually.
Right.
So that shot you saw there, everyone, I was a bit weight drained. Right. I'll let everyone know.
Okay.
There's a good chance for me to tell everyone. But no, you know, he came in early, warmed up for about an hour. You know, after 10 minutes, after 1 minute, I'm ready to go. Wrap my hands, put my gloves on, I'm ready to spar. It took an hour, warmed up. He did the sparring, there were 3 or 4 sparring partners, he sparred us all. He then continued to train for like another 90 minutes maybe. He was just non-stop, relentless. He was doing the sparring, the bag work. He was doing maths equations while he was hitting the bag one day. It was mad to watch really.
Is it vastly different from anything else you've ever seen?
I would say so. You know, obviously I've been around all the gyms. Kid Galahad, you know, I trained with him. I've never seen a guy train as hard as that, and numerous others as well. But Usyk, he just trained so hard and for so long. It was a weird thing to watch. Really. I was in the Klitschko training camp, and Klitschko was different.
In what way?
Klitschko trained differently. He didn't train as hard. I think Klitschko at that point was a lot older. He was near the end of his career. He did his swimming in the morning while we all ran. But one thing about Klitschko and Usyk was very similar in terms of they have the hands wrapped by someone would come in and wrap the hands before every session. Right. They're so professional. I've never seen professionalism like them.
And that's a long process as well, right? So over an hour before they...
We turn up and Klitschko would turn up an hour after us. It'd take an hour to wrap his hands, an hour to warm up. So we'd all be there. And I'd be starving me. I bet 5 hours here. I'm ready to go now. So, but the professionalism from them two, unrivaled.
When you look at the Usyk journey, and you look at all the fights that he's been in, boys, and there's always been this potential writing down of Usyk because of the size parameters, that ultimately he's a cruiserweight coming up to heavyweights. You look at the size of heavyweights now. I know when we go back to the mid-70s, Muhammad Ali would have been, you know...
a light heavyweight.
A light heavyweight now. But we look at the generation of heavyweights that are now, they're all bigger. What is it about Usyk that is enabling him to win is it simply the technical expertise? Is it the mental application that he applies and ultimately wears his opponents down? What's making him come out of these fights in every instance victorious?
I left Ukraine and I didn't think he would go on and do what he did. He knocked me out on the last day of sparring, but even with that, I didn't think he'd be big enough.
Right.
I didn't think he'd be strong enough. I didn't think he'd hit hard enough. I think the fights with Tyson Fury, his engine was too good. He's just relentless.
But technically, you must have thought they would have been good enough because so much made of the angles he creates and the manner in which he fights.
Yeah, I thought technically he's an Olympic gold medalist, you know, cruiserweight world champion. I didn't think he'd have the physicality, but his engine is unbelievable. That for me at heavyweight, he's just too fit for everyone.
Which is what Tony Bellew said, didn't he? When Tony fought him. Did Tony fight him at heavyweight or cruiserweight?
No, cruiserweight.
Yeah. And Tony said, you think you're in the fight with him, and then he goes up another level and you can't go with him.
He's unbelievable.
And Joshua said that as well. Joshua said, like, when they went into that round 10 and, you know, Joshua's coming out the back of that and the fight is, like, quite close at that stage, he said, like, he just turned a screw and upped it another level that he just couldn't compete with. Yeah. He said, like, those last few rounds, them penultimate rounds, he said he was just, like, another level, and that's what makes him different.
So, when you look at the fight, what sort of fight do you expect and who are you calling for?
You know what? I've been calling for Dubois win. I think Dubois...
is that because you think he can win or is it because you want him to win?
I think... No, you know, Oleksandr Usyk and I got on really well. He gave me his jacket once. He gave me a coat. It was nice. It was nice of me.
You might ask for that back.
No, I gave it to my dad. My dad won't give me it back. I think he's going to sell it soon. I just think it's about timing, really. Oleksandr Usyk, nearing 40. He's not physically... He's not a heavyweight. I don't think he's a heavyweight at all. I think he's still...
Despite beating legitimate heavyweights like Tyson Fury,
who
are real
I don't think he's a heavyweight. I really don't. I think he could do cruiserweight still now. I just think it's the timing. Daniel Dubois is getting better and better all the time. And I just think this is the right time for Daniel Dubois to beat Usyk.
Well, the question was answered. I mean, about the thing about beating Anthony Joshua was everyone knew that he could potentially beat Anthony Joshua. It's whether he could execute the outcome. Yeah. And I think the same situation will manifest itself, whether he can execute all the best laid plans of Don Charles on Oleksandr Usyk, knowing all that we know about Usyk. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Fascinating fight.
my enemy's hurt, there's no help for them.
One step closer to my dream and I'm ready to jump in there and bang with the best.
War by name, war by nature. Fight of the year contender. Here we go. Oh! Lights out. What a shot. Oh my days. Wardley's done it. Take a bow. That was impressive.
This is going to be a standout fight.
Let's move on to the undercard of the Usyk Dubois fight, and let's talk about specifically Joseph Parker. He was talking to the Ring magazine, and he's claiming that Queensberry have floated the idea of putting him on the undercard on the 19th of July. Is this a case of bad timing for Joseph Parker, or is he getting a little bit mistreated in the whole great scheme of things?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Like, you know, Joseph Parker he has become the danger man of the division. He's the WBO interim champion, and I think that guys.
I would have thought that had been Ajit Caballero, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Caballero is. Yeah, but he's in that boat as well, isn't he? Like, what I'm saying is they're avoided fighters, and fighters don't want to fight them unless they absolutely have to. And Joseph Parker is that guy at the moment. He's a great one. You look at his career, and you go back to the Joe Joyce defeat back in when it was 2022 or whatever, and you go, I think that's Joseph done it at that sort of level.
Indeed.
And the way he's rebounded and come back and, you know, worked his way into contention now, you go like, he's in a very difficult position. And we saw Joseph, didn't we, calling out the likes of Derek Chisora, saying, and people are saying, why would you fight Derek Chisora? You know, you're talking about someone like Derek. You go, well, I understand that because it's a buying time fight whilst he's waiting for that opportunity.
Well, he says he wants the winner of Usyk versus Dubois, but is that really a possibility for him?
But
that's a long way down the line.
It is, but once they've had that undisputed title fight, you know, those titles might fragment, and one of those titles may get the opportunity to fight for. So you go, he needs a buying time fight right now because what's he boxed once in 14 months or something like that? You know, he needs to fight. He needs to get active. He needs the rounds. Someone like Derek Chisora going over old ground with that again, or you go even a Dillian White, a guy that beat him. You go, look, Dillian's still around. He's looking for a fight. Someone of that sort of calibre is the fight that really makes sense for Joseph.
Is that helpful to him, though? I mean, we've had this. I mean, as much as we are helping Derek with his pension by advocating for that fight, isn't he a little bit beyond that now? With due respect to Derek.
Well, Derek's the IBF number one, isn't he? He's in that position as well. So you know, you look at that and you go, well, that's the motivation really for someone like Joseph Parker to fight Derek Chisora again because he's the WBO interim. Derek's got that number one position. It makes sense.
I think winnable fights for a lot of money are what makes sense to most people.
Yeah,
and there you go.
I think Chisora, I think Dillian White, I think for Joseph Parker at this stage, they're very winnable and they're for a hell of a lot of money. So if I'm Joseph Parker, it's unfortunate for him that, you know, the last 13 months come July, the heavyweight championship's been fought for. It's been undisputed title, and that's great for boxing. I would rather see Usyk Fury 1 and 2 and Usyk Dubois than Parker get a shot, to be honest, because the undisputed title is what it's all about. The game would be better if we only had one belt. So I'm happy to see the undisputed title being fought for. But as for Parker, he's got all the options. Yeah.
Are you surprised by the seemingly sea change in Joseph Parker? Like Spencer, he and I were at the fight when Joe Joyce took everything he had to offer, then knocked him out. Are you surprised at the re-emergence of Joseph?
Not so much. I think they came back and I think he started with Jack Massey maybe.
Yes.
I think they matched him nicely as he's come back, you know, and he's gone with Andy Lee's.
Indeed.
Would you say he's improved, or would you just say he's found his best form? He beat Andy Ruiz back in 2016. I think he's found his best form. I think Andy Lee just brought something out of him. We saw with Ben Whittaker, Andy Lee, a lot of experience, a great fighter. Yeah, I don't think he necessarily improves fighters massively. I don't think any coach really can massively improve.
He brings out what's there.
Already established fighters, but he just brings out the best in them.
Yeah.
So
he has changed though, Joseph Parker, isn't he? Because the one thing I always said about him was that technically Joseph Parker was very good, but he didn't let his hands go as much. And now he does more, doesn't he?
Self-belief, you know, and that mindset that we're talking about, you know, like Joseph Dave was saying, you know, earlier on in the show there, you know, that fighters mature at different stages, but when you're in your 20s as a heavyweight, you're still very, very young. Joseph Parker now is, 30 years of age or so. People forget that. Like, he was very young when he won that World Heavyweight WBO World title against Andy Ruiz. You look back then and you go, he didn't really believe in himself. He didn't commit. He wouldn't let the shots go. We saw that against Anthony Joshua. He's not that guy anymore. He now believes in himself and he lets his hands go. And in heavyweight boxing, you got to have that. That makes you, a dangerous commodity.
One name he didn't mention was young Moses Atoma. He's the interim WBO champion. Moses is ranked #1 in WBO. Isn't this a fight waiting to happen?
Listen, I think that Frank Warren said it himself, hasn't he? You know, it's all about timing for Moses. It's not about just if he wins that fight. Say that WBO title becomes vacant and he gets a fight against Joseph Parker, you go, it's not that they don't believe that he could beat Joseph Parker. Once he's beaten him, he's got to stay there. And I think that that's what Frank's saying. It's all about timing. Let us do it in our time. That would be too early for him right now against Joseph Parker. I think that, you know, what about yourself, Dave? Like Moses Atoma, if you was offered that fight, is that a fight that you would take?
I mean, it's not at the top of my list, really. For me, as a 33-year-old man, the thought of a 20-year-old knocking me out does not sit too well with me, really. But I think he's the real deal in all we've seen. But to go from that position he's been facing to Josie Parker is just a monumental step.
Absolutely.
Like, it would be terrible matchmaking. It would be irresponsible. And people talking about a time box for world titles anytime soon, he's miles off.
You've got to let the kid develop, and I think that's where it is. It's not about if he could beat him or not right now. It's more about the development. I think
Timer can beat anyone. He can beat anyone in 2 or 3 rounds. But when he goes past 3 rounds, we haven't seen him past 3 rounds.
What about yourself? Where do you think that? Do you think that that's a winnable fight? No, I'm saying for Joseph Parker. Do you think that's a stupid move if they was to say, yeah, let's make that fight?
Well, I'm not sure what the advantage is to Joseph Parker in that situation.
Well, what I'm saying, if the WBO title become vacant after the Undisputed and they had an opportunity to fight for the vacant title...
Well, that's a different dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because then it ticks 2 boxes and Joseph Parker will look at it and go, I can win a world title against a younger contender that doesn't know what he doesn't know yet. Or he can shy away from it thinking, I don't really want to be on the receiving end of a young guy knocking me out. I mean, Joseph Parker's a fighter. He'll take the fight. If he's a world title in offer, I would imagine he'll take that fight. But I wanted to just go back to you and just briefly question you about whether Moses Atoma... You said, I don't fancy going there as a 33-year-old and ultimately getting whacked about by a 20-year-old kid. But if it was presented to you as a commercial proposition, in terms of the economics made sense, would you take that fight?
I boxed anybody. I boxed Luis Ortiz, Dylan White back in the day, Tony Yoke, Olympic gold medalist, all these on a couple of weeks' notice. For not very much money.
That's a younger version of you, isn't it?
Yeah, for not very much money either. So if you're going to offer me a hell of a lot of money to box anybody, I box anybody. I boxed Itama, Usyk, one after the other for the right amount of money.
Yeah.
Like, that's not an issue to me. Whether I can win the fight or not is a different proposition altogether. I've got to be realistic. I don't want to get myself hurt. I don't want to embarrass myself either. I want to be in fights I can win.
What would be the ideal fight for you right now? Someone like a Deontay Wilder?
Deontay Wilder's the one, yeah.
Is it?
Definitely, yeah. That's the one I would like.
Why?
He's a former heavyweight champion of the world. He's one of the best heavyweights of the last 10 years. And little fat kid from Donny could box him. And at this point in my career now, I could beat him as well. So
We'll pick up on that and talk when we're talking specifically about you. But I just want to finish on Moses. And I know that Moses is the one that everyone's talking about, and there's a lot of interest in it. When we look at Moses' progress, when do we think, you as a fighter and you as a former fighter, when do you think he's likely to land? Do you buy into the mentality that we're looking at an inevitable world champion here, Dave? And B, if you do, in what timelines do you think that will manifest itself?
Yeah, I think he's an incredible prospect, but I think that's all he is still. We haven't seen him box for the British title yet. You know, he's boxed his best win. The last fellow who boxed, the American guy, 41 years of age, who could punch and he could see, he knew what he was doing.
Dempsey McKean was not a bad win. The way that he won the fight.
I'm going to be honest, Dempsey McKean's British title level, you can't put a timer in with Josie Parker. He shouldn't even be in that conversation. He's nowhere near. And I'm not saying for talent, I think offensively, already, even at this level, he's one of the best heavyweights in the world.
Yep.
He hasn't been hit back.
Yep.
He hasn't been put under pressure. Times I've seen him frustrated with Dobyshenko and Espindola. It looks a bit debunk of ideas. So you really need to sit him with someone that's going to give him something.
Who would you think then?
Franklin, I think, in a fight at 2's time.
Jermaine Franklin.
In a fight or 2, though. I'm not a big fan. He's 20 years of age, he's a heavyweight. I think he can be a heavyweight champion of the world. I'm a big fan of him. But talk of world titles for him already is absolutely ridiculous. He's miles off, really.
I think when you're talking about timelines, I'd say 12 months.
Yeah.
And I say in 12 months he's going to have another 3 or 4 fights, and he will be ready, because I think it'll be harder to hold him back than to let him go. I think that's where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear about one thing. Very rarely does Frank Warren not match in the best interests. I mean, some would say, well, recently Josh Taylor, but he had both sides of the equation, didn't he? Because he had Esserman as well. But listen, Moses Atuma is the word, and we'll see where he goes next. Don't miss Fabio Wardley versus Justice Huni this Saturday, live only on DAZN. Scan the QR code on screen now and sign up at dazn.com/boxing. Another two names that were mentioned by Joseph Parker are Fabio Wardley and Justice Huni. It's live on DAZN this Saturday. What do you make of this fight, Spence?
I like this fight a lot. I think it's a tougher fight than the original opponent for Fabio Wardley, which was Gerard Miller. I think Gerald Miller, sorry. I think that's a much more difficult fight, Huni. He's got an extensive amateur career. He's coming into his own right now as well. You look at the win that he had over Kevin Lerena, that probably developed him, moulded him as a heavyweight. He was hurt badly in the second round, again in the 10th round, showed a lot of character to come through that. They're the sort of fights you need, you know, when you're at that stage of your career to kick you on. And I think that he's shown those improvements. This is a dangerous fight for him. It really is. Wardley, I fancy Wardley to win the fight still. And he's the type of guy that looks forward to these sort of opponents that will come at him, stand in front of him.
I mean, a lot's made, isn't it, historically, of the background of amateur careers that Fabio Wardley doesn't have. You would have seen him in his most recent performance against Fraser Clark, which was a compelling and convincing outcome. What did you make of Fabio in that fight and that knockout? You
know, the knockout was impressive. He can clearly punch. He's tough. But I don't know. I just think he's beat Fraser Clark, he's beat Adelaide.
Yeah.
British title level fighters. I mean, Clark beat me fair and square, so it is what it is. But that, for me, doesn't put you in the world title picture at all. I think Wardley's very good. I think he's dangerous. I think he's awkward because he hasn't got that amateur background. I love fighting boxers that are stand-up, basic 1-2, being taught by the book. It's great. You know what's coming. It's a jab followed by a right hand. With Wardley, you haven't got a clue what's coming. That's and he can punch with it. That's why he's so dangerous. But people talk about world titles for him. His best win is Fraser Clark, whose best win is me. So I look at him, I think he's got a long way to go, and Huni was a very good amateur. But if Huni was going to the top, would he be boxing Wardley in a few weeks' notice? You wouldn't be throwing your best prospects on 5 weeks' notice with Wardley, would you? So there's questions for me on both of them. But the winner goes on to bigger and better things. The loser,
yeah, absolutely. I think that, look, you're talking about the winner boxing Joseph Parker, and I think that...
Are they? Seriously?
No, I'm saying that's where you're sort of saying, that's what the talk is. The winner could be boxing someone like Joseph Parker. Well, that's a tough fight.
So with respect to the observation that you've just made, Dave, if and when I expect Fabio to win, I mean, the worst thing I can do is tip anybody, because every time I tip someone, they lose. Right? On every sport, on everything. Right? But let's assume that my tips don't bugger up Fabio and he wins. Where would be the next fight for Fabio then? If you're saying, no, pack it in, he's not ready for world level, where would be the next fight opportunity after that for Fabio?
You know what, I like the Wardley story. I remember sparring Fabio 2018 when Dylan White was getting ready for a Chisora rematch. You know, a nice fellow, well-spoken, doing amazing things, you know, with a white-collar background, giving a lot of people hope that they can turn pro from the white-collar background. I think with Fabio, I think he's so dangerous. Like, I think he can beat anybody. All I'm saying is on paper right now, the wins aren't there for world title level. What he's done is very impressive. Fraser Clark, Olympic bronze medalist, very impressive win. Adelaide's a great win, but does that put you in world title picture? For me, it doesn't.
I think surely, though, a win for Wardley would, and then you talking about the fights like with Joseph Parker, you go, that's a sort of, I think that, but what I'm saying is that these titles are tied up right now, aren't they? And until we know what's going on with them, these guys are fighting each other, and we did want the best fighting the best. You go, Wardley, I don't think it's too early for Wardley to fight Joseph Parker, for sure. I think that's a great fight.
How much pressure do you think Fabio was... I mean, I spoke to Fabio earlier on. He seemed to be thriving in the opportunity. But these stadium fights, it's wonderful to get them in your hometown where something means something to you and you get to showcase yourself in football stadiums. But it must provide an extra level of pressure. I mean, we've seen it previously. I know that when Kell Brook fought Errol Spence, we're talking about world-level fighting. And ultimately, he could perhaps explain away the loss in front of his home crowd. And obviously Tony Bellew won his world title at Goodison Park. But going into your own environment where you really are the big noise in terms of the expectation levels, How much pressure, Spence, will he be under, do you think?
Huge amount of pressure, but I think that's the sort of thing he thrives off. I think that you know, Fabio Wardley is the guy that feeds off that sort of stuff, that pressure. But what he has to be careful of, though, is not allowing it to get to him, going out there, making a fundamental mistake and being and paying for it.
Trying to crowd, please.
Huni has that pedigree, and you know, yeah, absolutely. He's come through that.
He's got a lot of amateur experience
yeah,
at a high
absolutely.
level, but I think this is professional boxing. I think Huni is not. It's hard for me to say because I'm an active heavyweight boxer, and a lot of people say, "Well, Huni beat you," but from as a boxing fan and like someone that watches a lot of boxing, just as Huni will not beat Fabio Wardley. He doesn't have the physicality to match Wardley. He may win the early rounds. He may control Wardley with his jab for a while, but I think Wardley will get to him. The physicality is too much. This is professional boxing. It's different.
I think that Wardley has the capabilities of taking him out very, very early because that's what that he's very explosive and heavy-handed.
Well, we had the two boys on my show earlier on. Let's have a little listen to what they had to say.
Tell Fabio what you're going to bring. Tell us all what you're going to bring on Saturday night.
Just box smart, you know. I've done this for pretty much my whole life, and I've just got to go out there and show Fabio my experience in this game.
Fabio, what does he face when that first bell rings?
Energy and entertainment. I think energy from me, energy from the crowd, from the atmosphere of the stadium where I'll be fighting, and we know the energy that I bring to a fight and the type of entertainment I'm trying to display as well. So those are going to be a number of different areas he's going to have to compete with on the night. It's not just me he's fighting; it's going to be the crowd as well, the occasion, the moment. So yeah, we're going to have to see if all that boxing experience he has lives up to that.
Barry Hearn's son has said that Queensberry have made a mistake in taking this fight. How much of a chance do you give Justice Huni? I know we've talked around it a little bit, but realistically speaking,
he's got a chance for sure. It's heavyweight boxing, and he's got that. You know, he's got that pedigree. That if Fabio makes a fundamental mistake, he will pay the price for it. But do I think he will? No. I think that Fabio Wardley, you know, I think this homecoming for him and this and the occasion and the fact that he will feed off it, I think that all goes in his favour as opposed to against him. So it's a tough night for Huni. Sure, it really is.
Is there anything in? I mean, some of the statistics that come out is the nature of the fights that they've been in, and the fact that Fabio's average fight is 3 rounds and Justice Huni's is 6.5 rounds. Is there anything in those statistics that are going to shape the way this fight goes? I
don't believe so, because you have to. It's all right looking at numbers. With boxing, like statistics can lie sometimes because it depends on the opposition. You know, we can see with our own eyes, Wardley's a much heavier puncher, much stronger, much more adventurous. He wants to finish fights. Huni's more of a boxer. So numbers with boxing sometimes they can deceive you a little bit. Huni was a good amateur. He puts his shots together. He's a good boxer. I just think with professional heavyweight boxing, a lot of it's about physicality. I just don't think you can match up to Fabio.
Before we close this section, let's get the summation on Wardley Huni. Your view?
I think Fabio Wardley wins.
By what?
I think he wins by KO.
Dave?
Yeah, Wardley, big stoppage early.
Yeah, I agree. Dave, let's get on to you. And it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since the Johnny Fisher fights, and we've spoken to you since. When you look back and reflect on the circumstances, as I said at the top of the show, you've gone from someone that people that like now to probably the fans' favourite because of the manner. I thought it was wonderful the way you spoke to the cameras. I think it's such a refreshing outlook to have. I think you're a little bit too self-effacing. I want you to have a little bit more confidence in yourself. But when you look back over the last 3 weeks and look to where you are now, how do you feel about things?
Yeah, it's been a mad few weeks, really. Yeah, it's been busy, you know. I spent a lot of it in bed, you know, but I've been on the phone. I've been on the phone a lot.
I saw you on the Zoom call, yeah.
Yeah, it's been enjoying life, really. You know, my life's changed last few weeks. You know, the kids are gonna have a nicer house to live in and stuff like that. And that's why I do it, really. I'm not really. I never thought I'd win world titles and stuff. I just wanted to have a nice life. I wanted my dad to like me a little bit more, spend a bit more time with him and that. So I didn't get into boxing to be world champion. I got into it for other reasons. So the last few weeks really have given me all that as well. So I'm over the moon. Yeah, I'm not one to get excited and stuff, but I'm really happy. I'm content with where my life is at, and hopefully it can keep getting better.
Yeah, listen, it was a great performance, wasn't it? I mean, talk us through that finish, mate. You went out there, you know. I think justice was served, wasn't it, in going into that fight? You should have won the first fight, but you got the job done and you done it in style.
No, I expected to win the fight. That was the thing. I came here on the Thursday and people was asking me questions and stuff, and I knew I was going to win the fight. I think after the first one, I boxed Fraser Clark in September 23, and that aside, I not really had a real fight since David Price in July 19. So as soon as I got back in the gym in January, I said to Jamie, like, if we do the rematch, I'll win this, no problem at all. And, you know, I weighed in a little bit heavy and people said, oh, no, what's he doing? But I never really had any concerns at all. Johnny Fisher's a decent fighter, but that's all he is. He's a good novice. And I'm a good old pro, so that's the difference.
I saw you saying in an interview somewhere that actually it was a lot easier than you thought it was going to be. Right from the opening bell, you knew you was going to get the job done. It was just a matter of time, but it was much easier than you thought.
Yeah, I had time to sort my hair out a few times. Keep getting my hair in my eyes and that. I was like brushing it out of the way and then hitting him. It was good. Like I say, he's a good novice. He's a good novice, you know. It's difficult for me because I've had 3 proper fights in 6 years. I'm still not sure how good I am. I don't know how good Johnny Fisher is on a bigger stage. So I have no idea, but I'm enjoying it. People are rated 12 in the world. I don't think I'm the 12th best heavyweight in the world, but I do think after that performance, watching it back a few times, I think I can do a little bit, to be honest, yeah.
Why do you spend your time being so self-deprecating? I mean, I think it's an endearing quality,
Yeah.
and I think it was lovely. I listened to you after the fight when you were asked questions. What does winning a British title mean to you? It means an ensuite bathroom. You know, Betty and George go to bed, and I think there's lovely interaction. It shows a human side to people. But Jamie Moore was on the show with me, and he talked about you, and he talked about. You said to me on the show that we did 2 or 3 weeks ago about a particular fight that you felt you'd quit him and that you needed to go back and redeem yourself. And you talk yourself down a lot, yet in the same sentence a moment ago, you said you don't know how good you are. Jamie Moore thinks that you have a lot more ability than you allow yourself to believe. What's the mentality here, mate?
It's difficult because I think I'm quite honest. Like, if you ask me certain questions, like if you said like, I'm carrying a few extra pounds, yes.
Yeah.
Am I the best person in the world? No. But if you said like, am I good looking? Am I a handsome man? I say yes, very. So I'm like, depends what you're asking me, really. Like, you know what I mean? You can ask me certain questions. I say, oh, absolutely, probably the best looking man in boxing. So I'm not that self-deprecating, really. It depends what you ask me.
If you go back to the David Price defeat, which was a few years ago now, and you look at your career then, and you go, you thought it was all over for you then. You know, what was the turnaround there? How did you come back? Did you feel that your career was going to finish at that point?
Yeah.
And now you look at yourself now and you go like, you know, hard work, determination, you've grafted your way back in there. But tell us, you know, go back to then to now.
You know, it's been over a few times. I got stopped by Tony Oka in France. Everyone said I should pack in. And then the David Price fight, I had some bad injuries and everyone said like, that should be it now. And then I retired 2020 after the whole Lovejoy debacle of fighting go ahead and stuff. And
why is there a history of retiring?
Then the Fraser Clark fight. But you know what? I retired once myself. About 6, 7 other times. Everyone else told me I should stop. So basically, I started after the Fraser Clark fight. I had a few months. I said, look, we're done. I want to go and get a job and just go to work forever and just do what I do. And then I just said to my missus, I said, look, I want to get one last chance. Just going to give it everything this time. You know, I've got kids. When I boxed Fraser Clark, I didn't have a son, but my son was born 2 months after, and having a son, I think, like changed me a little bit. I thought, I need to show this young man. I'm going to show him. I'm going to show him what kind of man I am, what kind of man his dad is, and I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up.
Something to fight for.
My granddad passed away, and when I boxed Fraser Clark, he was very disappointed in me. He said, you quit. I come from a family of professional boxers. My great granddad had 31 fights. My dad had 30 professional fights. I now have 33. So I think having my son was a big thing. Yeah, I just want to give him. I'll just give it 100% now. That's all it is.
What about Jamie Moore and his influence with you?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, I think I went over there in 28, and my life was still a bit turbulent. Obviously, I had a big gambling problem in my 20s, and I had lots of problems with lots of things. I used to fall out with myself, to be honest. I used to cause all my own problems. I went over to Jamie when I was 28, but I still weren't ready when I went that first time. I still wasn't ready. I was still avoiding the gym at times. You know, I was still turning up with no eyebrows and no hair half the time as well sometimes. So I was still, yeah, I know, it's mad. I'd sometimes turn up with no hair and no eyebrows and be like, look, what are you doing? I said, yeah, I know, it's one of them days. But then I went back after I had kids, my nan passed, my kids were born, and I just went back and said, Jay, look, I'm ready now, I'm ready. And he understands me, him and Nigel Trout, they understand what I am and who I am. Sometimes I need an arm around me, sometimes I need telling, look, we need to do this. It's just clicked, really. You know, it's like a big brotherly, fatherly relationship I've got with both of them, really. You know, it's like, I'm different. I'm not your average boxer, really. Like, I'm a bit soft and nice. I'm not really...
I don't want to fan about too much around it and talk about the self-deprecating side of things. Is it a way for you to manage your own expectations? Is it a way for you to be suggesting to yourself, well, I don't expect that much from myself, so I'm never going to disappoint myself? Because there's a school of thought which I come from, which is basically, and I know it's not boxing, but life, business, boxing, life, business, money, whatever I've done, I've always gone, if that guy can do it, then can I do it? And I'm not going to stop until I get there. And I know that I can't run 100 metres in 9 seconds, right? So I wouldn't try and do it. But the biggest battle watching you guys as sportsmen is making the decision to do it, because that's a winning mentality. To go into a boxing ring and have the strength of character to do what you guys do is remarkable. And for you to have the mentality where you seem, again, to talk yourself down, is it because you're managing your own expectations, or is it something else?
I don't think so. You know, I think the biggest thing is, like, I've sparred the best heavyweights in the world, Usyk, Fury, and I'm not that good. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. I accepted that a long time ago.
But Deontay Wilder isn't that good either, is he?
Deontay Wilder isn't what he was. Deontay Wilder's beatable now.
Yeah.
I'm realistic. I'm very realistic. I know what I can do. I know what I can't do. And because on the back of that, now I'm training hard. I can't get hurt, and that's the most important thing. I can earn a lot of money and get out of boxing healthy because I'm training hard and I'm realistic, and that's what matters to me.
Do you look back and think, if you were deploying the same thinking that you 5, 6, 7 years ago to the way you're thinking now, that maybe the journey and opportunities might have been bigger, bolder and wider for you?
I should have done more, but it's like certain attributes certain boxers have missed over the years. It's like certain fighters have lacked power, they've lacked strength, they've lacked toughness, they've lacked a good chin. I liked being able to live a normal life. That was it. That was an attribute I liked. I liked discipline. That's one of the biggest attributes you need as a boxer, but it is an attribute the same as having power or being toughest. So I lacked certain attributes to go to the top, but I'm more than capable of beating some very good fighters and making a lot of money now, and that's what I'm aiming for.
You've put yourself in a great position coming off that win now, and the publicity you had off both of those fights. You go, you know, you've got a 2-fight deal now with Matchroom. You're talking about these big names. Like, who would have thought, like 12 months ago, you're talking about boxing Deontay Wilder? But that's the reality now. You're going, they're the fights that you're calling out, and that dream could become a reality, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think when I talk about Deontay Wilder, I smile. I think stylistically, it's a good match for me. I can beat him. I think beating Deontay Wilder, the Wilder fight and the one after him beating him I'd be happy. I'd be a very, very happy man. Yeah.
I mean, if Deontay Wilder isn't an opportunity, would you fancy fighting, say, if David Adelaide comes through against Jamie TKV, would you take that fight?
Yeah, the British title was always my world title. That was always my ambition. You know, like I said, my granddad, big boxing fan. My dad had 30 pro fights, never won the British title. My granddad, my dad always said to me, win the British title, that would mean everything to us. Yeah. So, 100%, yeah. The Wilder, Chisora is another dream fight for me, but the British title would be everything.
When do you seriously think you'll be out next?
I've been told that we're gonna do a show in Sheffield. I may headline a show in Sheffield, which will be nice.
When?
So September, I believe.
Okay, very good.
And then keep me in the gym. I've been straight back in the gym. I'm always at the gym now. I enjoy going to the gym. We've got Pat Brown, Jack Catterall. It's great. It's a great environment to be in. So fight September, hopefully. I hope I win in September, definitely.
Brilliant.
And then on to a bigger and better one.
Brilliant. We'll look forward to that. I'm gonna allow you to step out of this subject matter and just put it to Dr. Spencer Oliver. We've seen the news. I've got to have this moment.
You feel free to come in on this, Dave, mate.
If you want to, by all means.
Help me out.
Imane Khelif.
Yes.
Right? We had this argument last year where you were obviously an expert in this field and were describing Imane Khelif as a female boxer.
Yes.
Which
the evidence hadn't really
well, I think it was pretty clear.
Surfaced, hadn't it? That's something. I think that's probably a better way of saying it. And let me throw it straight back at you, Simon, because you seem to be very, very well educated on this whole situation.
Well, I'm not.
So you educate me on what it is.
Well, I'm
and
very
what's
strong. I'm
happened
very
right
strong
now.
in my views, and I'm very strong in my views across all sports. That biological males should not be competing with biological females.
But it was very unclear whether he was a biological.
I don't think it was. I think it was deemed to be politically incorrect by the IOC, who decided to suggest that the only way you have to identify yourself is by showing someone your passport. So if you wanted to identify as whatever you wanted to identify, that was, enough for them. And what we've seen is, I know that they were discredited in certain people's minds, which is the IBA, and people were using the Russian involvement in it and saying that the tests that had previously been had on this boxer potentially or factually announced them as being a male athlete. They may be part of DSD, which is differences in sexual development and all the challenges that go with that. But if you're born with certain chromosomes, you're a biological male or you're a biological female. And what I'm very pleased with is that sports, for want of a better expression, have grown a pair. Mm-hmm. The FA have stopped allowing biological males to compete with biological females. The ECB in cricket, and for Christ's sake, in boxing, of all the sports, when you've got contact involved, you've got to have correct delineation. What now seems to have manifested itself is that the result that some leak has found its way into the British media or into the world media, suggesting that Khelif is a biological male. I think most people knew that. You didn't seem to know it. For whatever reason, you didn't seem to know it. And I think it's a very good thing that this has manifested itself, because if something had happened to a female athlete at the hands of a biological male in this ridiculous world that we live in, where ideologies and people shouting loudly because they don't like something and they think that emotions can trump facts, and because something they don't like doesn't sit with them very well. So I'm pleased, and I think it's the right thing. And you were wrong, and you should have said you were wrong at the time.
Accept that, and I apologise, and I'm so glad that I've got you by my side to educate me on these situations.
I do try.
Just a quick question, Simon. Do you now feel that Imane Khelif should be stripped of that Olympic title, knowing what we know now?
I think that's what J.K. Rowling and people like that have mentioned. Certainly Sharon Davis has been talking about this sort of things.
Well, listen, if the facts are the facts, then surely...
Well, I mean,
you've got to feel sorry for the other female competitors.
Yeah, I do. And in the same way that I felt sorry for Sharon Davis, that she competed against Eastern Europeans during her time as a swimmer when they were all taking performance-enhancing drugs back in the day, from what I understand. So I think probably the answer is yes. Whether the IOC, for want of a better expression, have got the balls to do it is a different matter. But certainly I think it's a good question. I think the answer is yeah, absolutely, yeah. Whether they'll do it, we'll see. Anyway, that's it for episode 123 of the Biology Channel. Thanks for joining us. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys on Talk Boxing next time we're out.